There is a tension in the air around this connection, the kind that feels almost magnetic, like two energies circling each other, trying to stay composed, trying to act unbothered. But underneath it all, there is a current that refuses to calm down. Someone has been trying to resist this. Someone has been trying to hold back. But that resistance, it's wearing thin. Let me tell you something right now. Only take what resonates with you. Not every message is meant for every soul. But if your heart started beating a little faster when you saw this title, if your intuition whispered, "This is about me," then stay with me. Because this isn't casual energy. This isn't a light crush that fades when distractions appear. This is the kind of connection that lingers in the mind long after conversations end. The kind that shows up in dreams. The kind that feels unfinished, unresolved, almost destined. This person has been fighting it, fighting the pull, fighting the thoughts of you that creep in during quiet moments, fighting the way your name still carries weight in their chest. They may have acted distant. They may have chosen silence. They may have convinced themselves that stepping back was the logical thing to do. But logic does not silence the heart for long. And here's the part that feels intense. The more they tried to suppress this connection, the stronger it grew. Have you noticed how their energy feels different lately? Maybe you've been thinking about them more. Maybe memories are resurfacing out of nowhere. Maybe you feel this strange anticipation, like something is about to happen but you can't quite explain why. That's not random. Energy doesn't just disappear. It shifts. It builds. It prepares. This person has reached a point where pretending is exhausting. Acting unaffected is draining. Avoidance is no longer bringing them peace. In fact, it's doing the opposite. It's creating restlessness. It's creating longing. It's creating a quiet internal chaos they can't ignore anymore. There's pride involved here. There's fear involved here. Fear of vulnerability. Fear of rejection. Fear of what happens if they admit just how deep this connection goes. Because once they acknowledge it, they can't go back to pretending it's nothing. And that's where we are right now. At the edge. At the moment where resistance is cracking. This connection was never meant to be shallow. It carries emotional gravity. It carries unfinished conversations. It carries unspoken truths. And when something like that exists between two people, the universe has a way of bringing it back around until it's faced. The real question isn't whether they feel it. They do. The real question is what they're about to do about it. Because when someone can't resist a connection any longer, something shifts dramatically. Either they run harder out of fear, or they surrender and step forward. And the energy here, it feels like surrender is getting closer. There is movement building behind the scenes. There are thoughts forming into decisions. There are emotions that have been buried starting to rise to the surface. This is not coincidence. This feels like a turning point. So stay grounded. Stay in your power. Don't chase. Don't force. When something is meant to move toward you, it will. And in the next part of this reading, we are going to uncover exactly what is happening beneath their silence, what is breaking inside them, and what is about to unfold now that they can no longer resist this connection. Now we're going to step into this fully, but in a grounded, clear way, because this connection doesn't need exaggeration to be powerful. It already carries weight. It already carries depth. And what's happening right now is not random. It's a turning point. The first card guiding this entire situation is the High Priestess. This tells me that from the very beginning, this connection was intuitive. It wasn't loud. It wasn't forced. It wasn't something you had to analyze to understand. You felt it, and they felt it too. There was something unspoken between you, something that didn't need constant communication to exist. The High Priestess shows hidden emotions. This person has been carrying deep feelings quietly. They may have acted composed, distant, even unreadable at times. But internally, they were feeling far more than they allowed themselves to show. You triggered something inside them that felt spiritual, almost faded. And instead of leaning into it, they tried to contain it. Why? Because the high priestess also represents fear of exposure, vulnerability, emotional nakedness. You made them feel seen in a way that was both beautiful and terrifying. And when someone is not used to being emotionally open, their first reaction is often to retreat. So they chose silence. They told themselves they could manage it. They told themselves it would fade. They told themselves they were in control. But emotions don't disappear just because they're ignored. Then we see the Two of Cups. This card confirms something very important. The feelings were mutual. This was not one-sided. The Two of Cups represents emotional mirroring, a connection that feels balanced at its core. When you were together, even if only briefly, there was harmony, there was understanding, there was comfort. You likely felt like they got you, and they felt the same. That's why this connection has been so difficult for them to walk away from. Because no matter who they talk to or what they try to focus on, nothing quite matches the emotional alignment they felt with you. You became a reference point. And once someone experiences that kind of emotional resonance, it's not easy to replace. But instead of embracing it, they became overwhelmed by it. And that's where the Tower enters. The Tower represents a sudden internal awakening. Something recently shook them. It could have been your distance. It could have been realizing you are not waiting around. It could have been seeing you grow, glow, detach. It could have been fear of permanently losing access to you. Whatever the trigger was, it cracked their illusion. They can't pretend anymore that this connection is casual. They can't lie to themselves anymore that they don't care. The Tower destroys false beliefs. It collapses pride. It forces truth to surface. And right now, their old way of handling this silence, ego, avoidance is falling apart. They are realizing that resisting you has not brought peace. It has brought restlessness. It has brought longing. It has brought regret. This is not light energy. This is intense internal transformation. After that awakening, we see the Knight of Cups. This is where emotional movement begins. The Knight of Cups is not someone who stays silent forever. This is romantic energy, sincere energy, someone who wants to approach from the heart. They may move gently, but they move with intention. This person is thinking about reaching out, replaying possible conversations in their mind, wondering how you would respond, imagining what it would feel like to finally express what they've been holding back. There's vulnerability forming here. They are realizing that keeping everything inside is heavier than risking honesty. This energy suggests a message that comes from emotion rather than ego, a confession, an apology, a soft but meaningful approach. But before that happens fully, we see the Eight of Swords. This is the mental prison they've been trapped in. Overthinking, fear, doubt. They've been telling themselves it might be too late. They've been imagining a rejection. They've been convincing themselves to wait for the perfect time. The Eight of Swords shows their biggest obstacle isn't you, it's their own thoughts. They feel stuck, but the truth is the cage isn't locked. They could step out at any moment, and the Tower energy is already weakening those mental chains. The more they feel you emotionally pulling back, the more they realize silence is not protecting them, it's costing them. And finally, we have the Ace of Wands. This is ignition, action, a new beginning fueled by passion and urgency. The Ace of Wands doesn't sit still forever. It pushes forward. It initiates. This card tells me the desire to act is becoming stronger than the fear to remain silent. When we look at all of this together, the message is clear. They always felt this connection deeply. It was mutual. They tried to suppress it. Something recently awakened them. Their heart wants to move forward. Their mind has been holding them back, but the spark to act is growing. So, what is going to happen? First, you may feel the shift energetically before anything physical happens. You might suddenly think about them intensely. You might feel emotional waves. You might sense something building. That's the energetic tension rising. Then comes communication. It may begin simply, a casual message, a check in, but it won't feel shallow. You will sense the weight behind it. The Knight of Cups energy suggests emotional sincerity. They may test the waters at first, wanting to see how receptive you are. Because even though they're awakening, vulnerability still feels risky. But once the door opens, honesty follows. They may admit they've been thinking about you. They may confess that the silence wasn't because they didn't care. It was because they cared too much. They may reveal that they tried to move on and couldn't. They may finally acknowledge that this connection affected them more than they expected. The Tower shows humility. The Knight of Cups shows emotional courage. The Ace of Wands shows action. This is not someone casually curious. This is someone realizing that if they don't step forward now, they may lose something meaningful. And here's something important about your role in this. The High Priestess energy around you shows power and stillness. You don't need to chase. You don't need to force. Your detachment is what activated their awakening. When you pulled your energy back, they felt the absence. And that absence created clarity. Now they are the ones who feel urgency. This is a turning point. Not because everything magically becomes perfect overnight. The Eight of Swords reminds us they are still learning how to move past fear. They may hesitate briefly. They may move carefully. But the overall energy shows forward motion outweighing avoidance. They can't resist you anymore because they understand the risk of losing you. And once someone reaches that realization, their priorities shift. The dynamic changes from you wondering what they feel to them needing to show you what they feel. The silence is ending. The awakening has already begun. And very soon, you won't be guessing about their emotions anymore. You'll see it in their actions. And now, as we close this reading, I want you to take a deep breath and really sit with everything that has come through. This was never a light connection. It was never random. It carried depth from the very beginning. And what we're seeing now is not the start of something new. It's the unfolding of something that has been building for a long time. Someone tried to resist this. Someone tried to control it. Someone tried to silence what their heart was saying. But when a connection is rooted in truth, it doesn't disappear just because it's ignored. It waits. It grows. It reaches a point where it can't be denied anymore. And that's where this person is right now, at the edge of surrender, at the moment where pride feels heavier than vulnerability, at the realization that losing you would hurt more than admitting they care. You don't have to chase this. You don't have to prove yourself. You don't have to beg for clarity. The energy already shows movement. It already shows awakening. It already shows that resistance is breaking down. What matters most right now is your alignment. Stay grounded. Stay in your power. Continue focusing on your growth, your peace, your self-respect. The High Priestess energy around you is strong, that quiet confidence, that knowing without forcing. That's what shifts everything. When you remain centered, when you don't react impulsively, when you allow space instead of chasing answers, it forces them to step up. Because when someone truly can't resist a connection any longer, they stop playing games with it. They stop pretending. They stop hiding. They move. And when they move, it will feel different. It will feel intentional. It will feel honest. You'll sense the shift not just in their words, but in their energy. The approach will carry weight. The communication will carry emotion. But here's something important to remember. Just because someone awakens doesn't mean everything becomes perfect instantly. Growth is still growth. Vulnerability still requires courage. So when this person comes forward, meet the energy calmly. Listen more than you react. Let them show you who they are now. You deserve clarity. You deserve consistency. You deserve someone who doesn't just feel deeply, but acts on it. This connection is moving into a new chapter. And whether that chapter becomes reconciliation, confession, or deeper emotional truth, it is no longer stuck in silence. The resistance phase is ending. The awakening phase has begun. And the next move? It's not yours. It's theirs. Trust what you felt. Trust your intuition. Trust the shift in energy. If this message resonated with your heart, then take it as confirmation that something behind the scenes is aligning. The universe doesn't bring connections like this together without purpose. And very soon, what was hidden will become visible. What was silent will speak. And what was resisted will finally be embraced.